So, trauma can be seen as an event or a series of events or a set of circumstances experienced by an individual as physically or emotionally harmful or life threatening. It might have taken the form of earlier and repeated abuse, neglect, separation, and adverse experience that can occur within the child's important relationships. These are often referred to as ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And for a setting to become trauma informed, it sort of means that they understand that trauma is everyone's business, that there are different types of trauma, and that not all children who are exposed to trauma will go on to develop difficulties, that trauma reactions can look different at different ages and developmental stages. Trauma, but most importantly, trauma can impact lots of outcomes in lots of different ways for children and young people. Trauma-informed settings understand that all behaviour is communication, and that our job is to respond to that hidden need and not to that behaviour. The key message of all in a trauma-informed setting is that relationships matter, that experiencing healthy, positive interactions can develop the brains of those children who have been exposed to trauma. Every child needs a champion is a key message, and you'll see a link on the bottom of the screen to a fantastic talk by a wonderful educator called Rita Pearson. So the children who need love the most will always ask for it in the most unloving ways. And trauma is an exceptional experience in which powerful and dangerous stimuli overwhelm a child's capacity to regulate their emotions. So this inability to regulate might look like one or a mixture of some of these things. So, for example, a reluctance to separate from their parent or carer, or finding it really difficult to accept reassurance from adults. You can notice that a child might look as if they feel a bit helpless, and they have difficulty expressing what that's about for them. They might come in with reported sleep issues. They might recreate their trauma, sadly, through play or drawings. You might notice a change in appetite, change in their behaviour. These are the kids that might complain to you about having a sore tummy or a sore head because they're not really sure how to explain how they're feeling in ways other than physical symptoms. There might be some reporting of bedwetting at home, that type of thing. And the responses to those feelings that they have might look like fight, flight or freeze. So an example of a child who might be in fight mode is the child who's crying or kicking or angry. Flight might be that more anxious response, fidgety, running away. And a child who's maybe displaying a freeze reaction might be that child who's withdrawing a bit or who seems as if they're a bit stuck. The biggest impact of all that you'll see is on relationships and the ability to build and sustain relationships in that early learning setting. Yeah, so trauma-aware ELC staff understand that relationships are key with families, because let's not forget that some parents themselves may have experienced trauma with children, obviously. And relationships can be at the heart of healing for these young people. What that might look like is building those social and emotional skills through play and other approaches. That'll help children to become more settled to start the learning process. Children learn from people they like, and more importantly, from people who like them. By creating a safe physical and social environment, and having those approaches underpinned in your policies by nurture principles means that you have the ideal environment for supporting children who have been exposed to trauma. That can sort of all be summarised in the 3 pillars of trauma-informed care: safety, connections and managing emotions. Trauma-informed staff have moved away from thinking about what's wrong with this child to what has happened to this child, and of most significance, what can we do to support this child. And there are various ways to enact that. So, for example, use of language is really important. So instead of perhaps thinking about a child as manipulative, you might start to think of them as quite a resourceful child, or a child who's fearful, who's seeking to understand which adults they can trust. Another example might be, instead of thinking of challenging behaviour as attention seeking, thinking it rather as connection seeking, and thinking coming from a place possibly of not feeling safe in the past or of fearing that sort of rejection. Every interaction is an intervention. I like that phrase. Every time you speak with a child and have an exchange with a child, you have an opportunity to help them to regulate, to help them feel heard. Key messages for children: you belong here. I'll help you understand. I'll help you to regulate. I like you. You're safe here, and your feelings are okay with me. There's a couple of brilliant resources that would be worth having a wee look at, and the link will be on the screen. One is the brilliant Education Scotland training materials, Keeping Trauma in Mind. So look out for training opportunities around that. And there's also a lovely NES video called Sowing Seeds, Trauma-Informed Practice for anyone working with children and young people. And that's just available on YouTube. The final thing just to say is that when you are learning to become more trauma-informed, it can be triggering for you too. So, as always, self-care is important.